All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Astro Roadshow. Today, we're going to focus on Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. Let me know if you're able to see it. Can everyone see that okay?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So today's agenda, I'm just going to quickly introduce Astro and then Rent Responsibly, if they're able to hop on. And then we'll go through just the state of the market in Kitty Hawk, and Key Data will present that information. We'll do a quick homeowner spotlight and then a real estate spotlight, and then we'll do Q&A and closing. And I think that's Alexa joining now from Rent Responsibly. So for those of you on the call who don't or aren't super familiar with Astro, we launched about, I would say, a year and a half ago. And really, we were just trying to figure out a way to bring more professional education to individual homeowners. As you can see here, 50% of all homes are self-managed. And there's an increase in consumer demand, increasing distribution opportunities. So just with this whole kind of like growing segment, we figured it was important to bring education and more professionalism to the industry. So if you go to astro.org, that's where you'll find like our weekly blog content, helpful resources, our business directory, where you can search for professionals in the industry. And we also have some member perks and benefits that our members can take advantage of. So once you're actually in the network, so that's our public facing astro.org, anyone can find that information. But once you join the organization, this is where we have our topics of conversation. You can connect with other homeowners from within our application. We have e-learning courses and featured articles, and you can just, post questions and interact with one another. We also provide quarterly courses, as I had kind of just mentioned, but they're just power courses taught by industry experts. And then we have, these Q&As and office hours, so you can like engage with whoever taught that course. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alexa to talk about Rent Responsibly.
Actually, Bree. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I know
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I was like, where's my panelist link? Alexa had it, so now it's registering as her. But
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm happy to be here. I'm just happy I was able to sign on. For those who don't know me, my name is Bree. I'm head of community programs with Rent Responsibly. I see some familiar faces in the panelist section. So hi, guys. So who are we? Rent Responsibly is a community building and education platform for short-term rental alliances. So our whole mission here is to make things easier for alliances to advocate for themselves at the local level for the future of short-term rentals in their industry and in their location. So how do we do that? We connect everyone, we bring people together, we help solve common challenges, we teach them how to advocate for themselves. There's so many resources out there, but really truly standing up and taking a seat to the table, we help them do that as well. And then we also just teach them how to be good neighbors and rent responsibly. So next slide. So digging into what's going on in Outer Banks, shocker, not much. It's a very, very robust and large vacation rental market. I had to do some digging to find if there were any regulations that anyone needed to be aware of. It looks like they are split into townships. So I was able to reach out to some people. This isn't really an area that's on our radar. So I will say there was a lot of learning on my end about regulations in general. But I think that that's a really valuable point to make about regulations in Outer Banks. So town of Nags Head is one of the only ones that's operating with any type of permitting process, registration fee, anything like that. All of the other ones have basically, when I called and asked what was going on, they said, this is a vacation rental market. We really don't need to regulate or feel the need to regulate. Having said that, on many of the conversations, a lot of the government officials said, but it is something that we've talked about, and it is something that we're discussing. So to me, that really indicates that this is a vacation rental market. It's really imperative to form an alliance, if one doesn't exist, to ensure that those conversations can start with you having a seat at the table. A lot of the locations that we work with are dealing with being reactive as opposed to being proactive. So what I would say is to get these voices together, to really talk to city officials so they can hear from you and they can know that you are dedicated to renting responsibly. You have good neighbor practices put in place. I think that, really keeping that relationship in a good place is a really good place to start. So we have, if you want to go to the next slide. I'll dig into Nags Head and then we can get into resources. So right now, this is very basic. Annual registration fee of $25. Failure to register, $100 fee. So this is an annual thing that you have to do. I think Dare County does have some tax laws as well, and I would encourage all of you to do some digging in the government website there. But short-term rentals are obviously anything below 30 days, and they have partial home rental and full home rental, and that's what they're defining as a short-term rental. So just ensure that you are registered, that you are compliant, and that's just in the town of Nags Head. Everywhere else, no regulations whatsoever. So I linked something. I don't know if the slide deck is available afterwards, but I did link something there so people could dig a little deeper if there was anyone from Nags Head. But on the next slide is some resources and a QR code. So if you're able to scan this, it'll get you right over to the Rent Responsibly website. And from there, you can kind of download resources that can help you start conversations with your location, start conversations with city officials, so you can get ahead of a lot of these problems. It only takes one bad apple, one big party. Virginia Beach, which is just right up the road from you all, is dealing with its own type of short-term rental regulation and ordinance right now. So super important to keep this relationship happy and ensure that because you are separate from property managers, you are running your own business, that you are putting your best foot forward. So that QR code will get you to resources to help you do so.
Awesome. And we can post the link that you had mentioned in the network as well, so anyone watching this can easily access.
Awesome.
And then I will make sure we share the deck as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Oh. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and then pass it off to Key Data. You can talk about yourself and then we'll dive into the market.
Sure. So my name's Quinn Maniscalchi. I'm a data analyst and researcher over at Key Data. And our focus is to be the #1 trusted data and analytics provider of real-time vacation rental market data for the short-term rental industry. And there are a couple of ways that we accomplish this. So if you want to flip to the next slide. Through direct integrations with reservation systems for vacation rental professionals, hotels, and resorts around the world, Key Data aggregates historical and forward-looking data in real time to create the industry's most trusted source of data and analytics. So we also scrape the major online travel agencies, or OTAs, to provide analytics on a combination of rental by owners and professionally managed properties. So I'm going to start off today by talking about adjusted paid occupancy. And that's a little bit different than traditional calendar occupancy, because what we're doing there is strictly taking the number of guest nights booked and comparing that to the number of guest nights available. So we're excluding any owner holds or maintenance holds or anything like that. And just a little bit about how this graph works. The gray line is going to be 2019 through 2020 as of January 18th, 2019. The orange line is going to be 2020 through 2021 as of January 18th, 2020. And then the blue line is going to be 2021 through 2022 as of January 18th, 2021. So 2020 across the US brought a lot of markets expanded shoulder seasons, and these have mostly stuck around. So this past fall was slightly lower. So if we look at November for 2020, we can see it was at 43%, whereas in 2021, adjusted paid occupancy was at 38%. However, the spring in 2022 is pacing ahead of where it was in 2020. So again, that blue line, we're looking at 25%, and that orange line for 2021 is at 19%. Rentals are already 57% booked for June 2022 in the Outer Banks compared to 46% at this time last year. So occupancy is looking very, very good for this summer. And now we're going to move on to rates. So we're going to be looking at the average daily rate for Outer Banks. And these rates haven't quite grown to the same extent that some other markets have, but they are still up year over year. So for example, in August, the average daily rate was $467 in 2021 compared to $426 the prior year. Off-season rates also remained higher. So if we look at December of 2021, we were looking at 182 ADR, and for 2019, we were looking at $128. And just a note, average daily rate is pacing much higher for the spring and summer in 2022. So again, June 2022, we're looking at an average daily rate of around $651 compared to $569 in 2021. Next, we're going to look at the booking window for the last 6 and the next 6 months. So traditionally, the Outer Banks have a pretty long booking window, and this year's has actually been a lot longer. So in August 2021, the average booking window was 186 days, which was up from 129 days in 2020. These will probably remain slightly lower than previous years because they're already pacing ahead. So again, looking at May 2022, we're at 246 days, where in 2021, we were pacing around 221 days. So 25 days doesn't really sound like a lot, but if you think about it, that's about a month. So it's pretty significant. Lastly, we're going to look at average length of stay. This has been one of our most requested KPIs to look at because people have been talking about this quote unquote digital nomad. So people that are traveling, they're able to work remotely, they're able to work from wherever they really want to. We haven't really seen that materialize. So the Outer Banks could be an exception because there are a lot of rental length of stay restrictions. So they want to keep it at 7 days during peak times. But again, we're right around 7 days during the spring, summer, and the fall of last year. It does traditionally peak in December, January, early February due to owner holds and maintenance holds and things like that. But traditionally, we're looking at about 7 day stays. And thank you so much for hanging out with us today. You can reach us at data@keydatadashboard.com if you have any questions at all, or you can visit us on the web at keydatadashboard.com.
Okay. Okay, so going over to the homeowner spotlight. So we have Vivian with us today, and she is a short-term rental homeowner in the Outer Banks. So why don't you just start by just telling us about yourself and just how you got started in the market.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vivian. I am originally from Maryland, and I actually still live in Maryland. We have been vacationing in the Outer Banks since the early 2000s. And as probably many people did during COVID, we started thinking outside the box a little bit. And when we were on one of those extended work from home, but work away from home periods in the Outer Banks, we decided to just pull the trigger and purchase a little cottage for ourselves. And we knew that in the long run, after COVID was over, or that when work and studying kind of became more in person, we weren't going to be able to spend so much time there. So we knew from the get-go that it was probably going to be a short-term rental for us and then enjoy it whenever we could. So with that said, I started to really dig deep and learn about the short-term rental market and see where our little cottage could fit in this huge area that is, as others have mentioned, is just full of vacation rental market homes. And it is a vacation rental market industry. I don't think that there's much else going on in the Outer Banks other than it revolves around that huge summer season. So it's been interesting. It's been great. I've really relied on Astro to kind of provide information and educate me. And I think it's a great tool, and I'm just happy to be here.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced just owning your short-term rental?
For myself, I knew that I didn't necessarily want to put it out immediately on Airbnb or VRBO or any other online travel agency website, because I since it was my first year go around and I wasn't going to sign on with a professional management corporation or agency, I just wanted a little bit more control than I was seeing was available through the OTAs. So I think just the learning curve of how to set up the property so that it could be marketed online, so that I could have a web-based or a cloud-based property management system. It's just the learning curve, I think, has been the hardest part, but I can't say that it's been too difficult.
Nice. And then the final question we have is just, how are you seeing the guest and market change due to COVID-19? Has that, affected your business?
I don't think that and based on what I know as a guest of going to the Outer Banks for so many years and what I've seen in the last 2 years of what's happened in terms of vacationers, the market has definitely grown. A lot more people are more interested in learning about the Outer Banks. I think it was a hidden treasure for many, many years, and now not so much. I think the Outer Banks Travel Bureau helped with that, and other, magazines like travel magazines have highlighted that the Outer Banks have some of the best beaches on the East Coast. So there's a lot more travelers. And with that, they're just not used to vacationing in short-term rental homes and what's expected. So that's, I think, definitely a big change versus old timers that had been going for years and years on end. They kind of know, well, this is what you expect when you come to a short-term rental home versus a hotel. But I think that's probably changed all over the United States, where short-term rentals are now providing more and more amenities to resemble the business that they are growing to be, to compete with hotels and other types of accommodations.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and we're so glad you were able to join us today.
Thanks.
Yeah. So next, we're just gonna talk to Michelle. I'll let Michelle just go ahead and introduce herself.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm Michelle Clark. I'm the principal broker for Vacasa in North Carolina. I have been on the Outer Banks for 25 years selling real estate, so I've seen lots of changes. And as Vivian said, just in the last 2 years, how much the market has changed, just with the people being able to vacation more freely and not stuck to kids' schedules and things like that, or work schedules. So it has changed dramatically. It really has.
Mm-hmm. So what has the second home or investment property climate been like with COVID-19 specifically?
It's exploded. And one of the biggest challenges we're having right now is, like many markets, is that our inventory is so low. And when we do get a property on the market, generally, if you're not in there the first day, it's a multiple offer situation. So I just saw that happen today. If someone's got cash, they're going to most likely beat out somebody with a mortgage or something like that, or there just isn't a whole lot on the market. So people are just watching, doing virtual tours, not even waiting to come down to see the property, just seeing it online, or kind of trusting their agent to just kind of find them, and then using their due diligence to to close the deal.
Mhm. And I imagine there's probably not much more development happening on, well, on the Outer Banks specifically. Is there?
It's gotten smaller and smaller. There are fewer and fewer lots available. We're seeing more on the northern beaches, like the Corolla area and into the 4-wheel drive. There are still a good deal of vacant land there. Although with building materials have gone up from COVID, it made building a little bit more difficult. Although we are seeing a lot of new construction, as well as on Hatteras Island, which would be our southern beach. There's more vacant property there, but it's becoming fewer and fewer. So people are looking at remodeling existing homes, sometimes tearing down a home and rebuilding. A lot of different options.
Okay, so how would someone go about finding a real estate agent who really understands the short-term rental market and what it's like to invest in that?
I think first and foremost, you want someone that's been in the game for a good period of time, that has dealt with the market's ups and downs, maybe delved into property management a little bit. I've been in property management prior to this, so I understand, what kind of return you want on an investment, what you need to look for, what kind of fees you're going to have. So you need someone that's got some really good knowledge of the area, somebody that has it's got some time in the market. That's important. We find so many people who come to the Outer Banks, they move here, and it's almost like, they get their driver's license and then they go for the real estate license. So you want someone that's got good knowledge of the market and the area and what to look for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and probably just like with the regulations and that, rent responsibly, or Quinn was talking about too. It's just
Exactly. And Nags Head does have more regulations than a lot of the other towns. They were one of the first to, they were building these monster homes, but there wasn't enough adequate parking. So that is something that they changed, so there's adequate parking for these giant homes that they were putting up. So it's a good thing, and you want it to the island to remain the way that people come to see it. We're a very family-oriented area, so it's very attractive to a lot of families that come here. Not a lot of high-rise hotels, lots of water sports, lots of family activities. So I think that's what the appeal of the Outer Banks is for a lot of people.
Okay. And then the final question for you is just if you could share any kind of interesting stats or trends, or kind of what's going on as we move into 2022.
Well, prices definitely aren't going down. I don't see them going down. Just from the beginning of the year to today, we've had 150 closings, which is pretty significant. So, and we're only on day 21.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a lot of closing. That's vacant land and homes. So it's moving quick, and like I said, the inventory is low, so people are just waiting, just kind of chomping at the bit, waiting for something to come on the market that they can pursue.
Yeah, that's so, the housing market is it's just so interesting right now. The whole short-term rental housing, it's wild. So
it is, and we're only the area of the Outer Banks, there's only about 38,000 year-round people that live here. So we go from 38,000 people a year, full-time residents, to when we're in season, roughly about 400,000 people per week. So it changes significantly. And our season has gotten longer and longer. We don't really have that shoulder season that we used to have when I first moved here, where restaurants would close and there just wasn't a whole lot going on in the off season. That's when a lot of people like to come down, because we do still have really mild temperatures and there's still a lot to do. Everything's still open. So it's coming to the point where we don't really have an off season anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. And I guess that would support too. If you're someone looking to invest and you're going to spend more than you typically would have had to spend on the investment property, to have less seasonality would be great, for.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to get the most out of your property as possible.
Exactly. Okay. And that actually, I think, is going to wrap it up. We were Be and Sell It, I think, had a couple of slides, but they were not able to join today. But I'm going to check the chat and see if there's any questions. Give it a second here. Stop sharing. It does not look like we have any questions. So I think we can go ahead and wrap. I really appreciate everyone being here to just do this quick little run through, talk about the market a little bit. If anyone's on and has a specific market that they, like another market they want us to talk about, please share that in the Astro network. We're creating our calendar for the next places we'll virtually visit. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.